guys, today we're going to be talking about the different pieces of diving equipment that us recreational divers use when we actually go underwater and we can breathe. So let's get into that. So right now we're going to be talking about scuba masks, which there are different types of masks. Like there are clear ones, dark ones, but there is something special about these masks. They're not plastic, they're actually tempered glass. That is to withstand the pressure that us divers go underwater, because it's not like 6 feet down in a pool. It's actually like 15 to 60 feet. And as you can see, mine does not have a snorkel. Now, I don't actually like snorkels because it gets in the way when you're underwater. But this is a mask with a snorkel. Now, if you were to be on the surface of water and you have to move towards your diving spot, you need a snorkel so you don't waste air in your tanks. So when you're underwater, it actually gets in the way, so I don't really like it. So let's move on to the next piece of equipment, shall we? So right now, we're going to be talking about fins. Now there are different types of fins. My fins, you actually have to wear these special underwater shoes in order for your feet to actually fit in. But now, if you wanted to wear your plain feet on this one, then you're going to have to adjust this way more so it can actually fit tight and snug on your feet. And then you can actually move more efficiently underwater. So now let's move to the next piece of equipment. So right now we're going to be talking about wetsuits. They're made out of a special material called neoprene. And what neoprene does is that it insulates the cold water and it turns it very warm. So how you get into this, it's a full body suit. So you just put your legs in, you put your other leg in, then you lift it up and you put your arm and your other arm in, you zip it up, and you're ready to go. So there's actually a different other type of wetsuit right here. It is a very short wetsuit, and it only goes to your thighs and your shoulders. So let's move on to the big toys right now. Right now, what you're seeing behind me is called a BC or a BCD, buoyancy compensator or buoyancy control device. Now, this is almost like your school backpack, but it is much more different, as this can hold your air tank over here, and this actually weighs a lot when you put in weights. You have a weight pocket right here, a weight pocket right here, and in the back you got 2 weight pockets here and another weight pocket right here. Now I'll show you how to put it on in a second, but this isn't only used to hold your tank. This is also used to control your buoyancy. So you can, with this button you can inflate it, and with this button you can deflate it. So how you put this thing on is put it like your normal school backpack, as I just said, but you actually have to adjust it. So you see these shoulder straps, you adjust it, and and you see this Velcro. Where is that? Oh, it's back here. This Velcro straps around your belly right there. Then this clip, and then you tighten it very tight. So in case anything happens to the Velcro, you still got this thing. Or if anything happens to this thing, then you still got the Velcro. See? Win-win. And then you got this strap up here. Then you tighten it, and there you go. You got your BC all ready, without a tank or anything. But I want to show you how to orally inflate this. Orally means that you do it by yourself without the tank. Now you press down on this button and you breathe out from your mouth. Now you won't do this normally, but in case of emergency, if you ran out of air on your tank on the surface, you will orally inflate it. So now I'm going to show you how to take this thing off. Now you can't just take it off like that, but you have to actually loosen everything up. So for starters, let's do that. Loosen those, take your Velcro off, loosen that one, and there. Oh, and there's also another important feature that I haven't showed you. There is also a quick release right here. If you have to get out of your BC very quickly, you can use these to get out of it very quickly. So you just click these off and they'll launch out, and then you can just swim back up to the surface if anything happened. Let's move on to the next piece of equipment. This is called a regulator. Now, it's pretty self-explanatory because this feeds you air while you're underwater. And this is made up of 5 components. This is called your first stage. This is what hooks up to your tank up here, and it sends down air when you breathe in. But this actually lowers the pressure of the air when you're breathing in. This thing drops the pressure to 200 psi, so it's safe to breathe. Now, and if anything happens to the regulator, if it's facing upwards, it will go into an emergency mode and start free flow, which means it's going to be losing air rapidly. So you don't want to do that, so when you're not using it, you want to face it down underwater. Now, we're done with that main regulator. Now let me show you the octo. This is if your buddy was to run out of air in underwater. You give this to him, you go back up to the surface with him breathing out of your tank. So you're automatically breathing 2 times the amount of air off your tank. So if you're to be low on air, then your buddy will give you your octo, his octo. Now, this is the LPI, low pressure inflator hose. So this connects to the BC, so you can actually inflate it with that button that I showed you earlier, like a couple minutes ago. So this connects, and then you can automatically just refill your BC if you ever need to. Now this is the main piece of equipment on your regulator. This SPG reads your dive time, what gas you're breathing, and it monitors your log so you can put it into your logbook after you're done with your dive. Now, as you can see, my SPG monitors 0 psi to 5,000. Now, your regular aluminum tank will not be filled all the way up here. It would actually be filled to 3,000 psi. Anyway, so yeah, once you should get out of the water once you're at least around 500 psi, or when you're coming near to 500 psi, you should get out of the water, and yeah, you can just go back to a dive shop and refill your tank. So now let's actually get to the next piece of equipment. Now, let's talk about our tanks. Now this tank holds 60 cubic feet of air. This is my tank. Now I need a smaller tank because I'm not an adult. Adults consume more air than us children. So as you can see right here, that is where this tank came from. And right here it shows the details of this tank. Aluminum Scuba cylinder. And if you want to put any stickers on this, then you can, as I did. And obviously you just saw it is an aluminum tank, so it only holds about 3,000 psi. That can give you about an hour of dive time or less, depending on how much you're breathing. You want to take slow and deep breaths while you're breathing from an air tank underwater. So right now I'm going to show you how it looks like when we assemble it, and then later I'm going to show you with all of this gear on. Let's get to that. And right now what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be assembling our scuba kit or gear, whatever you want to call it. So right now, most important thing is that this little flat part right here should be facing towards the back of your head. Now if you cannot see that flat part, just take your dust cap off and you can see the O-ring should be facing towards the back of your head. So now we want to keep that on because it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a dust cap. So right now we're going to unstrap this so we can put in our scuba tank. Let's undo that. And and you want to put it a little bit upwards. If I can turn this around, you want this to be a little bit upwards. So when putting this on, you should lean back your head to make sure that this does not hit your head. So what we're going to do now, we're going to push it down a little bit. This is actually a very important feature of the BC. That is because if your tank was to loosen from this, which is a very common to happen, this will catch around here. And so your tank does not go up. So if you don't know, air escapes up underwater, and this tank is filled with air. So your tank wants to go up, but your BC wants to go down. That's going to lead to some problems that you're going to have your dive buddy or your dive team to solve with you. Now, I'm having difficulties trying to unloosen that. Now, let's see if we can push just a little bit more down. Yep, this is difficult. That should be good right there. Now, let's stamp this like that. And make sure that Velcro is very tight. So now I'm going to tighten this thing to make sure that it's nice, snug, and secure. So as you can see, you want to kind of try and lift your BC and tank to make sure that it does not fall. So now, I'm going to point you towards this side. Now we're going to hook up the regulator. Now I didn't mention that there are two different types of screws or valves. This is a yoke valve, which is most common in Florida because this is used in more tropical waters. But if you're talking about more high pressure tanks, then you're going to probably use a DIN valve, which is a screw that you screw on to this is going to change. You don't have this on a DIN valve. So this little jagged thing right here, there's something on the back of this part of the tank, and you're gonna line it right there. So right here, make sure that that's nice and secure, but not too secure. Don't want it too tight, because when you turn on your air, it gets tight already, but when you go underwater, it gets even more tighter. So you don't want that too tight. Just at least tight enough that it won't come off. So right now, before you turn on your air, you'll want to hook up your LPI hose. Mine's pretty complicated, so I'll have to take that. It all depends whether you're on your BC, what type of BC you have, what mark BC you have. This is an aqualung, so it might be different from your BC, or if you even have a BC. So you'll see this. You want to pull this back, and that should go in snugly. Now these dust caps you want to keep just dangling, because those are very short and they shouldn't cause much of a problem. But when it comes to hooking up your different hoses, you will hook up these hoses. Now, I don't have clips for my BC. That's a problem. You're supposed to have clips for your hoses. This should be the only thing that dangles. So right now, that is your equipment set up, but if you were to turn it on, you will want this facing away from you. So I'm going to quiet down just so you can hear. So if you heard that, that means that airflow is constant. But the good thing about the regulator is that, oh, and I forgot to tell you, when you're turning it on, you don't want it all the way. You want to slack it once. Now, if we were to look at my pressure gauge, we have at least a little bit over 3,000 psi. My computer is not on because we are not diving underwater, but right here, it would say air and my surface time. And if we were to check how much air we have, I'm not going to put my mouth on this because it is very dirty. Just listen. That means that airflow is constant. So yeah, I just purged the valve. I want to turn it back on just so you guys can actually see, because I guess that the camera cut off right there. But yeah, you do use a little bit of air when you have to turn everything on. Oh, and one thing that I forgot to mention, let's put this in action. So you see this. It inflates your BC. Put that down. This inflates your BC, so you want to be buoyant. Now, if you want to float effortlessly on the surface, you filled it all the way. But we're not using too much air. So I'm just gonna demonstrate. Yeah, but now, not on the surface right now, but when you're about to go underwater, you face this thing up. The reason for that is because air escapes up underwater. I mentioned that a couple minutes ago. Now, let's deflate it. Okay, barely any air came out, so we're gonna give it a bear hug. As you can see, all the air has escaped from the BC. So now, when turning this tank off, let's turn it off right now. When you're gonna turn it off, it should be facing towards the O-ring. It should be facing the back of your head as you turn it off. So now let's get a little bit of purge action right there. So now you want to look at your SPG and make sure that it is at 0 psi. And that is because when your air is turned on, your yoke valve or your DIN valve, it will not come off. It is very tight. When your air is on, it's very tight and you just can't take it off. Oh, yep. Let me just connect this thing back because I actually need to take off my LPI hose. Man. Okay, so yeah, you will take off your LPI hose. Comes off simple as that. Yep. So when you're diving, you should actually memorize how to assemble and disassemble your diving equipment. Now, because no one else is going to do it for you, and it's your responsibility as a diver to actually memorize this process. So as you can see, everything is off. And the first thing that you do is that you put your dust cap back on. Now, the reason for this is, after a dive, when you're fresh off of a dive, you don't want water getting to your regulator. That's a problem. Now, you put the dust cap back on, and you'll put this back on the table. And then, you just loosen this strap that I showed you earlier. It should be not loose enough. It's very tight. Okay, so now you loosen this. And I also forgot to mention that your BC can have 1 or 2 straps. Now when it has 2 straps, those straps are actually looser because it has 2 straps. But when your tank has 1 strap, it actually is very kind of hard to put it back. But that makes sure that your tank is secure and it will not come off while a dive. So now I'm going to show you how it looks like when us divers are actually putting on all of this equipment. So, right now I'm going to show you guys how it looks like when we put all of this gear on. Obviously, you have all of those, but it's hot outside. I can't really put on a wetsuit. But right now, I'm going to have to show you how you get into this. So, I just showed you how to get into the BC. But what I didn't tell you is when you have the tank on, you will get in sitting down. Now it all depends on how big the boat you were diving in, because some people jump in the water first and then someone throws in their gear and then they get in it underwater. So right now I want to tell you how to put this on, just like I told you with BC a couple minutes ago. Velcro strap always goes on first. Then you got this clip right here, right there. Now just tighten that up so it's tight enough. So now you got this smaller clip, put that on. Oh, and I forgot, shoulder strap. So now this is without weights. Now if I were to stand up, my tank by itself weighs at least over 20 pounds. Underwater it weighs around 5 pounds. So right now I do not have any clips for my things, for at least 3 of my hoses. Now that is bad, because when you're diving in a coral reef, this creates drag. My second stage should be in my mouth, but I'm not. But yes, this creates a lot of drag, especially my octo. This is because it is longer and it can create drag. Now, these little metal things that you see by my sides are made for clips. These are also made for clips. Oh, I don't have one right there, but yes, these ones are made for clips. There are a lot of metal things right here that you can attach clips, and those are just made for the things that will dangle around, like your SPG and your octo. So right now I'm going to just take this off, because you won't spend a lot of time walking with this gear, and you shouldn't spend too much time walking with the gear. Now, as I told before, you untighten everything, so the next time that you get into your gear, it is all going to be loosened so you can get in easily. That's it for today. I hope you guys have a nice day.